Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. So I get to be out of my comfort zone for once. Usually when I'm talking about big data. I'm talking directly about technology, ERP, CRM. Anybody knows me knows more about my resume than my history or how I got into cannabis. And funny enough, I come from a very different background than what I expect most people come from when they're in cannabis, much less in this type of environment. As Sarah mentioned, serial entrepreneur. The first company was in college, second one a couple years after that. Had some really fun experiences in technology. But before that, I was actually in the military. I grew up in a military family, very conservative family, actually. Growing up, I heard about marijuana and remember Nancy Reagan saying, "Just say no." Later to come and find out that was all propaganda. But it was interesting because the first time I actually really experienced anything around cannabis or marijuana was when I was 36. And my father was actually going through treatments for adrenal cancer. And for those of you that know about adrenal cancer, it's very rare. This is actually a GBM type cancer. And if you've attended any one of the sessions yesterday, several people talked about that type of cancer. And one of the treatments they recommended for him was cannabinoid-based. My dad heard the word cannabis and said, "No, that's not a real drug." He heard marijuana and said, "No, that's for potheads." And all I could think of was, just try it. Just understand it. Look at the data. Figure it out. You're a smart man. He goes, "Okay, fine. Show me the data." And I couldn't. There wasn't a lot of data out there. And the data that was out there was disparate. It was disjointed. It was coming from sources that weren't necessarily credible. They came from those that were against having it legalized, those that were. And it was frustrating to me because my dad was still stuck in the mindset that this wasn't a real drug. And fast forward to 2012, we lost my father. And 6 months later, the treatment that he had been recommended was recognized by the NCI and NIH as a treatment for that specific type of cancer that showed full tumor regression. And that's when it kind of hit me. I couldn't be the only person dealing with this. There were people that had loved ones going through this that may have been more open-minded. And that's what really led me to take my experience in big data and my experience with CRMs and ERPs and market analysis and try to find a way to bring that data to everybody. And I was very fortunate that I met a brilliant woman that had a vision that around market analysis. Not necessarily big data, but market analysis. And the two of us put our heads together, and New Frontier was born. The idea being that we were going to aggregate, normalize, and bring together all this data from all these different sources. And it was going to be available to investors, legislators, regulators, owner-operators, people that genuinely wanted to know about the business itself. And it was met with a lot of acceptance. My own family, they had a harder time with me going into the cannabis industry than understanding that I was in a high-tech industry addressing the cannabis industry. That's something that is a clear distinction that a lot of people can't see. You know, even fast forwarding to now with Guardian Data Systems, we're not a CannaTech company, we're a fintech company that's addressing a concern for the cannabis industry. I saw a bigger picture again with that data. And about a year ago, I recognized one thing that we didn't have, and that was real-time data. And the natural progression for finding real-time data is going directly to the source. It's going to the owner-operators. It's finding the data coming from the patients, the data that's coming from a point of sale, the data that's coming from managing a dispensary or a clinic or a cultivation, wholesale data. Where's it being purchased? How's it being grown? What's popular? What's being used medically? What's being used recreationally? And the only way to do that is to have a full ERP solution. Now, many people in this industry don't know what that means. They hear ERP and they're like, great, another acronym. What does it mean? I just want a point of sale. I want to track my inventory. I need to understand what's going on in my cultivation, and that's all they look for. They don't understand that I can't even calculate my cost of goods sold because I'm using 3 different applications. And that's where Guardian Data Systems comes in place. We actually have a system that goes soup to nuts from beginning to end on an accounting-based platform system that covers everything from HR, benefits, payroll, manufacturing, production, cultivation, processing, infused products, recipes, labs, distribution, delivery, clinics, and dispensaries, being able to run every part of your cannabis business from start to finish. And you're able to actually look at all of your data. You're able to pull that data out and make it work for you. You're able to track your inventory. You're able to understand, where should I be spending my time, my energy? What do my patients want? What do my patients need? This is stuff that's actually very valuable data. You can go to companies like Headset. You can go to companies like Baker. You can go to like all these companies that are bringing all this data together. But the most important data is your own data too. And without having that kind of comparative analysis, you're not able to maximize the potential relationships you have with your patients, the relationships you have with the regulators, the relationships you have with government, the people around you, to be able to actually maximize all of that information. And that's one thing that we do. We start at the very beginning with the owner-operators directly. We're working with government. We're working with other countries. We're trying to innovate the use of your data and being able to bring transparency to that. So, like I said, I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone because I'm talking about a little more about my personal experience with the cannabis also. And these, oh, missing the slide. So there were a couple of quantifiable things that I pulled out of my own experience. And part of that was go forward with a mission. Everything out there has a reason. Don't be task-oriented, be mission-oriented. That's one thing that Guardian has taught me, is to surround myself with people that are also mission-oriented. Carry yourself with integrity. Be transparent. Be legitimate. Stand behind the words that you're actually putting out there. And then, of course, and my favorite out there, it's always worth the effort to find a smarter way to do things. So with that, I would like to thank everybody here. I've watched the CannaTech family grow, and I'm pleased to see the growth of how large this has gotten, the global entry for CannaTech, and being part of the family. Thank you.